You're listening to the weekly Parsha podcast recorded with Hashem's never-ending assistance in Ramah Shemesh Israel 5776, 2016. This week's Parsha is Parsha's Boy. In our Parsha we have the completion of the 10 Makos, the 10 plagues, and the Jewish people are released from their bondage in Egypt. Now, there's something very interesting which I'd like to share with you and speak about, which happens in this week's Parsha, which at first glance may seem to not be so clear what it has to do with Geula, what it has to do with redemption. Nevertheless, as we're going to see in the Medrash, it's a central focus, actually, of the redemption. So we're going to uncover a mystery here. We're going to uncover something that one may have missed quite easily. This is what it says at the beginning of chapter 12. God spoke to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, and he said, Pasuk Beis, this month is yours. It's the first of the months. It is the first for you of the months of the year. This month of Nissan, the month of Geula, the month of redemption, the month when the Jewish people were redeemed from their slavery and they left their bondage in Egypt to go and serve Hashem, to enter into a covenant with God. This all happened in the month of Nissan, the first month of the year. As we speak about, it's the month of the spring. It's usually April time. It's the time when the whole world is coming out of its bondage, so to speak. It's the time when the winter is ending, the spring has come. We start to see the growth that's apparent in the world. Now, besides for the actual narrative itself, within which the Torah is telling us that on the 10th of the month, so there's going to be an obligation for the Jewish people at that time to set aside an animal, which will be later brought on the 14th of the month as a paschal lamb. But the Torah itself is telling us something very important here in regards to Nisan, in regards to this month, in regards to the concept of Rosh Chodesh, of the new moon, of the concept that the Jewish people are going to base their calendar around the moon. What is the idea? Why is this specifically over here? Also very interesting is that we know that this is the first of the commandments to the Jewish people as a whole. The first of the commandments, the first of the mitzvahs that the Jewish people are to receive from Hashem in their relationship with Hashem. The first of them all is indeed this mitzvah. What is the idea that the first mitzvah is right here in this story, in the narrative of the Exodus, of the Jewish people leaving Egypt? What is so foundational about this concept of Rosh Chodesh, or the first of the month, and more specifically, the fact that the month of Nisan is the first of the months of the year? Typically, when we think about what's Rosh Hashanah, what's the beginning of the year, we think of Tishrei, of Rosh Hashanah, of Sukkot, of Yom Kippur, of those months that happen in the fall. But the Torah is telling us that for the Jewish people, in a very deep way, the month of Nisan is the beginning of the year. The spring is the beginning of the year. So what is the idea behind this? Why is it here in the middle of the story of the Exodus? So there are two different midrashim I'd like to share with you. The first of which is a midrash in Shir Hashirim. The verse in the Song of Songs in chapter 2 verse 8 says, Kol deidi hinei zeba. The sound of my beloved is coming. Midaleg al heharim. It is skipping along the mountains. Mekapetz al agvois. It's jumping on the valleys. So the Medrash says like this, that this voice, Kol Dodi Yinezeba, the voice of my beloved, what is this voice? It's referring to the voice of Hashem. It's the voice of God, who is our beloved, the Jewish people's beloved. And that voice is jumping, it's skipping about, so to speak. We'll see what that means. But that voice is the voice of Geula, it's the voice of redemption, that Hashem is coming to redeem His people. It's the voice that we heard then, at the time of the Exodus. It's the voice that we're going to hear in the future time when it's time for the final redemption. Kol Dodi Hinei Zeba, says the Medrash, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Nechemia, Rabbanon. We have three different sages who shared with us their opinions about this verse. Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Nechemia, and the sages. Rabbi Yehuda Omer. Rabbi Yehuda says, Kol Dodi Hinei Zeba ze Moshe. Rabbi Yehuda says, who is the voice of my beloved? How does God speak to us, as it were? Who is the agent? It's a reference to Moshe Rabbeinu, to Moses. B'shosh habav amar Yisrael b'chodesh ze atem negolim. Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, came and told amazing news to the Jewish people. He said, this is the month. HaChodesh hazeh, this is the month of Nisan is the month that you are going to be redeemed. So when Moshe said this to the Jewish people, Amrullah, so they responded to him and they said, Moshe Rabbeinu, he'achanu negolim. Moses, what are you talking about? How is it possible that we are going to be redeemed? There are three different tainas, there are three different statements that the Jewish people are going to make, saying why it doesn't seem right, it doesn't seem possible that they're going to be redeemed. It doesn't seem like it's really the right time. First of all, we know that Hashem said to Abraham, that the Jewish people are going to serve this strange nation, which is a reference to Egypt. They're going to serve them and they're going to be under their affliction. They're going to be afflicted by them for 400 years. How long have we been here? We've been here only 210 years. So the timing doesn't seem right. Amar lahem, Moshe responded and he said to them, Hashem wants to redeem you. He's not looking at your calculations. Hashem is skipping over the mountains. What does it mean he's skipping over the mountains? You know what the reference to is with these mountains and valleys? It's referring to end times and ibbur times. Ibbur times are times when you have an extra year, you have an extra month in the year. Like this year is an ibbur year. It's a leap year. We have in the Jewish calendar, we have extra months in different years in order to align the solar calendar with the lunar calendar. So there are different times that are more mesugal, that it's more possible for geula to occur. There are times when this redemption is possible. There are times that if you make the calculations, this is an end time. This is a time when there's an ibbur, there's an extra spiritual concept, there's an extra spiritual realm, a transcendental realm, which is being brought down into our realm. And that's more of a time which is possible for geula to occur. Hashem says, don't make any calculations. Don't think that you know when Moshiach is going to come. I'm telling you, says Moshe, that Hashem skips over. Hashem is going to skip over all of your calculations, all of the different possibilities, the things that you thought was when Mashiach is going to come, when the Geula is going to arrive, the redemption is going to happen. This is the month, this is the time. Right now is when this redemption is going to occur. Shenemer, as the verse says, this is your month. This is the month which is the head of all months. Just like the head sticks up above the body, it's the Rosh, so too this is the Rosh Chadashim, this is the head of all the months. This is the time of the year, and this is the time within the time of the entire world. Moshe Rabbeinu was telling the Jewish people that is going to stick up, that there's going to be a Geula, you're going to see something much greater, much greater. There's going to be redemption. Rabbi Nechemia Amar, the Medrash continues with the second opinion. Like we said, who is the voice of my beloved? How does Hashem speak to us? Who's the agent? It's Moshe Rabbeinu, it's Moses. At the time when Moses said to the people of Israel that this is the month that you're going to be redeemed, they said to him, Moses, how can we be redeemed? We don't have good deeds. We don't deserve to be redeemed. Amar lahem. So Moshe responded and said to them, since God desires to redeem you, God is not going to look at your evil deeds. To whom is he going to look? But tzaddikim shebachem, he's going to look at the righteous. And at their actions. For example, Amram, who's Moshe Rabbeinu's father, and his court, those righteous individuals. What does it mean that God skips over the mountains and he jumps on the valleys? It means that God is going to look at the courts, is going to look at those things which are referred to as mountains. Like the verse in Shoftim in Judges chapter 11 verse 37 says, it refers to the fact that someone is going to go to the Beis Din, is going to go to the courts. And the verse refers to these courts as mountains. So we see that God, when it speaks of the fact that he's skipping on the mountains, it means that he's going to the mountains. He's looking at the mountains. Even though, yes, the Jewish people don't have the Ma'asim Tovim that they desire. They don't have those good deeds that would merit them the redemption. Nevertheless, they have righteous amongst them who have good deeds. And God skips, as it were. God doesn't look at the negative. God looks at the positive. And thereby, he redeems the Jewish people. And in this month you're going to be redeemed. This is the month. This is the head of all of the months. Rabbanan Amri, the sages said, a third opinion, as to what was the back and forth between Moshe Rabbeinu, between Moses and the Jewish people. Kol doidi nezeboz and Moshe, like we said in the previous two opinions, the voice of my beloved is a reference to the voice of Moshe. When he came and he said to the Jewish people, this month is the month that you're going to be redeemed. Amrulai, they said to him, Moshe Rabbeinu, they said to him, Moses, how are we going to be redeemed? All of Egypt is full of filth from our serving idolatry. We're serving idolatry. How is Hashem going to redeem us? We are unfaithful to Hashem. Amar lahem. So he said back to them, since God desires your geula, He wants to redeem you. He does not look at your idolatry. He skips here. He's skipping over the mountains. The mountains that are referred to that He's skipping over, that He's not touching, are the idolatries. Like we see that there's a reference to idolatry as mountains. Al Rashi Aharim Yizabechu, verse in Hosea chapter 4 verse 13. On the mountains, on the heads of the mountains, they're going to be mizabech, they're going to bring idolatrous sacrifice. And in this month, you are going to be redeemed. As the verse says, this is your month. This is your month. So now, as we read these three different midrashim, these three different explanations within the medrash, so the question that really pops out, there are a few questions. The first one that pops out is that every time it keeps saying, like there's something that you would have thought, but don't think that. Why? Because this is the month that you're going to be redeemed. This is the month that you're going to be redeemed. It's almost like somehow the thought that you have, the mistake that you're making somehow is you think that you're in the valley. You think that you don't deserve to be redeemed. You think you aren't on the top. You think you aren't on top of that mountain of redemption. Hashem says, no, you are on top of that mountain of redemption. This month, this is the mountain. What is the idea? What is the depth of the idea that Nissan is somehow the very month itself is something which causes the Jewish people to be negolim, to be redeemed. They thought that they're in a valley when it comes to time. They thought that it's not yet the time, it's not yet the geula, the time hasn't come. No, Nissan is here. Now all of a sudden it's possible for redemption. They thought that they don't have good deeds. They thought they're in that valley of bad deeds. Hashem says, no, Nissan is the month of redemption. They thought they're in this valley of idolatry and they don't deserve to be redeemed. Or they're on this mountain, the wrong type of mountain, so to speak. They're on the mountain of idolatry, they don't deserve to be redeemed. Hashem says, no, you're making a mistake. You're on the wrong mountain. You think you're on the wrong mountain, but you're on the right mountain. You're on the mountain of Nissan. What is the idea? What is the concept here? What is the depth of this idea that Nissan is called a Rosh, that it's a mountain in time, as it were? What is the concept? What is the depth of it? So I'd like to share with you one more medrash, which really brings home the depth or the idea behind this verse, this concept of Nissan. Rishon Ulochem L'Chad, it's the first of the months. It's the mountain in time. It's that amazing time of Geula, of redemption. The medrash says like this: when the Jewish people left Egypt, God said to them, there is no greater month than this. That is why Nisan is called the first. It's the head of the months. Nisan is something amazingly powerful. It is the first of the months. Now the medrash is going to tell us that there are a number of other firsts. There are a number of other things that are referred to as Rishon, as the first. And for that reason, they are also mountains. They're also powerful. They're also very strong, very high. Davar Acher, says the Medrash, Rishon Ulochem. It's the first for you. Kiviyachal HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Shenikra Rishon. As it were, God is also referred to as the first. Shenemar Ani Rishon V'Ani Acharon. The verse refers to, in Isaiah chapter 44, verse 6, refers to God as the first and the last. God is the first. What does it mean, the first? Soon we're going to see what the first is. V'Tzion Nikra Rishon. Zion, which is a reference to Jerusalem. Jerusalem is also the first. Shenemar, as the verse says in Jeremiah chapter 17, verse 12. Kisei Kavod Mar Me Rishon. God's throne is from the beginning, from first. Mekayim Mikdashenu, the place of our temple, the place of our holy abode, of God's holy abode. So, Yerushalayim, Jerusalem, is also referred to as the first. Ve'esav Nikra Rishon. Interestingly, Esau is referred to as the first. Shenemar, as the verse says, Vayetzi HaRishon, the first one came out. The firstborn was Esav. Moshiach Nikor Rishon, the Messiah, is referred to as the first. Shenemar, as it says in Isaiah 41, chapter 27, Rishon LeTzion, Hinei Hinom. The first of Zion. Who's the first one? Who's the first individual of Zion? He's about to come. Here he comes. Is a reference to Mashiach, to the Messiah. He's referred to as the first. Yavei HaKadosh Baruch Hu Shnikar Rishon. Let God, who is referred to as the first, come. V'yivnei Beis HaMikdash Shnikar Rishon. Let him come and build the temple, which is also referred to as the first. It's Zion, the center of Jerusalem. Let him come. V'yipara min Esav. Let him come and collect, as it were. Let the dues be paid from Esav, from Esau, who Shenikar Rishon is also referred to as the first. V'yavei Mashiach Shenikar Rishon. Let the Messiah, who's called the first, come. B'chodesh HaRishon, in the first of the months. Shenemar chodesh is alachem Rosh Chadashim. As the verse says, this month is yours, the first of the months. Rishon lachem l'chadshei hashana. It's the first of the months. What is the idea of the first? What is the idea of the first? Especially when we speak about Hashem. Hashem is the first, but there is no other, right? We talk about God as one. God is one doesn't mean that one as opposed to two. God is one, He's all inclusive. So what does it mean that Hashem is one, that He's the first? What does it mean that the Beis HaMikdash is the first? What does it mean? What is this idea? What is the concept here? And I think that the depth of this idea is, when we speak about the first, we speak about the first month, we speak about the first, the Tzion, the Zion, that Jerusalem, that the Beis HaMikdash, the temple, that God, as it were, is the first. We're saying that there's a spiritual mountain. There's a spiritual mountain. There's something outstandingly spiritual, transcendent, all-inclusive, that's there. When we see that thing, when we look at that concept, whether it's a concept of time, whether it's a spiritual concept, whether it's a physical concept, it's a mountain. It's the first of the months, it's the highest of the months. It's God, as it were. There's something transcendent and all-inclusive that's there, that's being represented. A mountain, think about it. When we speak about a mountain, the Jewish people receive the Torah on the mountain, on Har Sinai. The Jewish people come to access God on a mountain. Everything in the physical realm is an expression of something spiritual. And so, when the Jewish people want to meet God, and when they go up to a mountain, it means that they're rising up. It means that they're transcending. They're coming to a physical place which is higher, in order to get to a spiritual place which is higher, to connect to God. But that mountain isn't something which is only true in a physical sense. There are also mountains in time. There are times that are more misugal, that are more possible, that are more open, that are mountains. There are times that are sticking up, where naturally at that time it's more possible to connect to Hashem, to connect to God, to connect to spirituality, to connect to something transcendent. And there are people, there are individuals who are righteous, who have more ma'asim tovim, have more good deeds, have more actions, have more transcendence within them. They have more, they have transcended, they have risen above in spiritual terms. They've risen above others, and those are the tzaddikim. Mashiach is the one, the Messiah is the one who will be greater than all people. He will be someone who is Rishon, who is first. The concept of the first is that mountain. It's that one who is above others. It's the first one. It's the one that rises above. It's the mountain. It's HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's God Himself, as it were, who is all-inclusive, who's that mountain that we're trying to reach up to. And also it's important to understand that Esau was somebody who had tremendous spiritual potential. Unfortunately, he squandered that potential. But he still stood as someone who was Rishon, who was first. He was someone in the physical realm who was first. He was very developed physically. He had amazing physical abilities. And to this day, Esau and those who follow in his footsteps, those people are the ones who are first in the physical world. And they're a mountain as well, in a certain sense. But they're a false mountain. Just like Avodah Zarah, idolatry is something which can give a person a spiritual high somehow. It's something which a person, when they sacrifice to the idol, somehow they get high spiritually. And that's why it's also on a mountain. But it's a false mountain. It looks like a mountain, but it's a false mountain. And now let's return to the original Medrash, because over there's an amazing idea which is hidden there. It's really beautiful. And that is that there are so many mountains, there are so many things that seem to be mountains. And it seems like either we're on that mountain or we're not on that mountain. It seems like we think we know what's transcendent. We think we know what's going to be the point of Geula, of redemption, how we're going to get into a relationship with Hashem. But Hashem says to us, there's a mistake that's going on. You're mistaken. You think that there's a special time. And it's true, there are special times that it's more possible to access Hashem. But you think that you know when the actual time is, when the Geula is going to happen, when the whole world, that revelation is going to happen, when the whole world will know that Hashem is there. You think you know when that time is. You think you know when the keitz is, the end is. You think you know when the ibbur is, when that transcendent aspect is impregnated into the world and comes down into the world. You think you know. But you don't realize that there's something so much deeper. There's a time that's so much deeper. It's called Nissan. Rishanu lachem l'chadshei hashana. This is a time, this is a month where you don't even know, you don't even realize that you're so much higher than you thought you were. That you're so much higher, you're mamish on the mountain already. You don't realize it. You think you have no ma'asim time, you think you have no good deeds. But there are mountains around you, says Hashem. There are tzaddikim, there are righteous ones. And I'm not going to look at the lack of good deeds. And you wonder, so well, how are you going to redeem me? How are you going to redeem me? And the answer is, Rishon lochem l'chadshei hashana. You're in Nissan. You're on the mountain already. You don't even realize it, but you're naturally on the mountain already. You think you're an Oved Avodah Zarah, you're on a different mountain, you're on the wrong mountain. You're on the mountains of idolatry. Hashem says, no, I'm skipping over those mountains, and I'm landing on a different mountain, which you also happen to be on. You're on the mountain called Nissan, you're on the mountain of Geula, you're on the mountain of redemption. You didn't even realize it, you didn't even know it, but that you're already on the mountain. Nissan is that month when the whole world starts to bud and sprout and everything's coming and the trees are turning green again, the grass is growing, the world is awakening. But that's just a physical manifestation of a spiritual reality. That Nissan is ours. It's the Jewish people's God is saying. It's the month of redemption. It belongs to you. You have no idea. You don't even realize that you always have access to redemption. You always have that ticket because you're already on the mountain. I was thinking about it in terms of the fact that the entire Jewish people, almost everyone, no matter where they are, no matter how far they are, no matter if they are serving idolatry, no matter if they don't have ma'asim tovim, they don't have good deeds, they don't have mitzvahs. When it comes to Pesach, when it comes to Passover, when it comes to the Exodus, we all relate. We're all sitting there at our Passover seders eating matzah. We're sitting there and we're joining together and we're acknowledging that this is our month, that this is our month of Geula. It's our month of redemption, that we're all on the mountain already. We may not think that we are. We may think we're in the valley. We may think we're on the wrong mountain. We may think it's not yet the time for us to have a spiritual connection to God through the Torah, through our Yiddishkeit, through our Judaism. But Hashem tells us, Rishon lochem l'chadshei hashana, this is your month. This is the first of all of the mitzvahs. This is the foundation of Judaism. It's the foundation of the Jewish people. That no matter what, you're always on the mountain. You always have access to redemption, to a true relationship with Hashem. I want to bless you, and please bless me back. Hashem should help us to realize that we're on the mountain. Yes, we need to try to scale the mountains of ma'asim tovim, of good deeds. Yes, we need to try to be righteous. Yes, we need to steer away from the mountains of idolatry. But Hashem should help us to recognize that no matter what, we are already on that mountain. No matter what, we have a relationship with Hashem. And that's a relationship which we get to see within time. When it comes to Nissan, it becomes openly manifest, it becomes openly clear. Hashem should help us to be able to access that mountain, to climb that mountain, to see that we're already there at the peak of that mountain. Thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful Shabbos. This podcast was made possible through the gracious donations of listeners like you. For more podcasts like this, please visit www.arigoldwag.com or search on iTunes Ari Goldwag.